What up and welcome back to the Blame Game. Sorry for being a little slow on the upload this week. Monday we had a holiday, plus this week has Riot off for the LCS, but your boy was still cooking on the show. You may be wondering why I'm wearing a bucket hat, and I just don't want to keep brushing my hair out of my face. This week's topics are Tactical and Bjergsen, so let's dive into it. TSM had a pretty disappointing 0-2 weekend, especially the loss to a thus far uninspiring Dignitas. Tactical in particular drew a lot of criticisms for his deaths in this game, totaling 5, as well as some bad positioning. Let's take a look at exactly how bad this was though. TSM drafts a pretty early game composition, with Kalista and Renata being basically the strongest laning bot lane, and Gnar into the last pick Gragas. Both side lanes have shove early on and some scaling in the mid lane, so TSM are going to want to jump out to a lead and control the game from there. Things don't start great, with Mia losing his flash while setting up a gank for Spica that river counters. They also allowed Dignitas to get the Herald down low enough because they're late on the contest to make it a 50-50, which Spica loses, meaning their early game comp lost the best early game snowball objective despite a winning top side. Even with this, TSM are in an okay spot. They have a 1.5k gold lead off the back of some nice CS advantages and use the bot lane pressure to grab 2 dragons. On a red buff contest, Spica gets chunked out and Tactical steps way too far forward, to the point that he's in melee range of Xin Zhao. They have wards out, so I'm not sure at all why he did this. It baits his team into wanting to salvage this play, but they don't really play it particularly cleanly. For example, Spica missing his flash W right here to get a kill. Anyways, right after the play, Huni also gets solo killed in this counter pick matchup. Honestly, at this point, the game's already doomed. I mean, they're playing the early game team comp, but they are unable to contest the second Rift Herald because they're too far behind on item spikes. The series of cross-map turret trades that follow advance Dig's game plan more as they're getting extra gold into the game. Tactical's one death thus far was pretty bad, but it's not that standout compared to the level of play from the rest of his team. But the next death is the one that drew a lot of the attention. Spica cuts off Dignitas, returning to the mid lane turret after a bit of a Baron skirmish, and they almost kill River. Rather than follow Maple around the wall, Tactical jumps between the turrets and gives the Dig members someone to focus down and away into the fight. I will say that even if he followed Maple, the fight probably just gets disengaged without any kills, and TSM can only grab mid turret with the pressure. It doesn't really change the game state, but yeah, this play looks pretty bad. His next death is not his fault at all. Are we really going to flame him for standing there? His second to last death, I would say, also isn't his fault. Dig are split, and TSM need to pull the trigger as soon as they buy the space into the river to pick this fight 4v3. The hesitation by Spica, Mia, Maple himself, whoever, allows Gragas to cut off the escape and target the flashless Tactical over Maple with flash. Final death is him just not hugging the fountain, so who really cares? All in all, I'd say Tactical's deaths were not particularly egregious in terms of their effect on the game state, though I understand how egregious a lot of them looked. Only the first one really fucked TSM at all in the game, and things were already going wrong in other ways already. That doesn't mean that I'm going to give him a pass, though. Tactical has the most deaths of any AD carry in the league, and his good laning numbers are largely bolstered by the fact that he's played more Kalista and Lucian lanes than anyone else. While none of his score lines look super egregious, except the game we just covered, all of his games have 2 or more deaths. It feels like at least once a game he's just going to hand one over to the enemy team. Fans are right on this one. Tactical definitely needs to clean up the deaths. Next topic is Team Liquid and Bjergsen, who had a disappointing loss as well to 100 Thieves. Not that losing to 100 Thieves is disappointing, but the manner in which it happened definitely ruffled some people's feathers. Bjergsen's Corki was especially offensive to people's eyeballs. I tried to take a statistical look at Bjergsen's Corki compared to other North American Corkis and try and find any aberration that might stand out. Despite his earlier Sunderer build, his DPM isn't really substantially lower than others. Jojo may look like an outlier here, but given how DPM on poke champions quickly scales with game time, it's not a surprise. The surprise actually belongs to a Blaze Olive, but his Corki is a little too aggro at times. His farm, 4% CSD, KDA, win rate, it all looks fine. There's nothing that would jump out and say he's a worse Corki than his peers over the course of the year. That's not to say fans are wrong though, as I myself have a bit of a negative impression of Bjergsen's Corki. DPM numbers can be fine and also not look impressive. For example, playing into Ornn. Doinking an Ornn 30 minutes long for 200 damage a pop looks like fucking nothing, but statistically can mean the same thing as landing just a few fatty 800 rockets on squishy backline members. DPM numbers sometimes have zero correlation to how well someone was playing depending on the champions in the game and the game states. For example, someone hitting a warmogged up tank in the side lane all game long but getting nothing done with their split push might give them really big DPM numbers and also have been a massive failure. To really answer this question, I would have to rewatch all of Bjergsen's Corki games, taking into account the opponent's champions that they're playing and the game states and where his poke numbers are actually coming from, and then rewatch all the other NA mids the same way to see where theirs are coming from, and that's all beyond the scope of this question. I know it may be unsatisfying, but I can neither confirm nor deny this sentiment. That's gonna do it for this week of the Blame Game. Unfortunately, the LCS is off this weekend, so we're all gonna have to find something else to do. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel because we'll still have content coming out pretty consistently on TGI, so make sure to do that. Bye.
You know, sometimes when it's your job to do something and you can't figure out how to do it because you filmed so many outros over the years, and now you're just awkwardly at the end of somebody's YouTube video and they're sitting there being like, is this really happening? Is he just saying he doesn't know what outro to do? Well, if you're like that, then you might want to consider getting an Alienware computer. Because if I had one in front of me right now, maybe I'd have like a script that I've written on it that would be something I could refer to instead of this weird ad-lib thing that I'm doing right now. No, honestly, Alienware's got great stuff. We've been using everything that they create for years for TGI. I can actually officially say that now because it's just been like literal years. There's 2 years that just now where I wasn't even out here and we were using their stuff to do remote interviews, and it was awesome. They allow us to create wonderful 4K videos like this one, and I really appreciate their support. So if you appreciate my videos, understand that we couldn't do it without them. So go check them out. There's a link in the description below.